warm welcome to everybody. My name is Katrin Arning and I'm a psychologist. I'm right now working at RWTH University and my research focus is on the human side of those technical innovations, on risk perceptions, on acceptance, and of course on communication, which is required. And yeah, let's start. I think the mission is clear, act now. And we've heard a lot about potential applications of the CCU technology. And yeah, I want to look with you on the social response to this new set of technologies. And when we look into history and the recent past, we know that technical innovations are not always welcome, at least in the beginning. So yeah, let's go back to the introduction of the railway. People were afraid that this might cause delirium furiosum or that using a telephone would attract lightning strikes. I can see some smiles in your faces, yeah? Today, this sounds funny, but we do not know a lot about the reactions of people when we come to CCU technologies. This is a set of technology which does not bring personal benefits like comfort or wealth or something. Okay, they bring benefits like mitigating climate change, but this is nothing you can immediately feel and perceive. So this is why it is important to look at acceptance issues, because we know from other energy transition technologies that people are sometimes a bit reluctant in their reaction, especially when they do not really understand the technology or they feel like it demands changes in their lifestyle, in their environment. Yeah, just think about there was a wind park erected in your neighborhood, or there was a biogas plant in your neighborhood. So this is why we also have to include the social response to CCU into our development activities. And yeah, first of all, I think it's important to know what acceptance is, because the rest of the talk will be about acceptance. And for me, as a social scientist, first of all, it's a complex issue. Acceptance is a concept which has many different phases or facets. And for me, this is really, really fascinating, this complexity. For a lot of engineers or policymakers, this is not really welcome, because I do not have an easy answer to give you. But I hope I can, yeah, transport some of my fascination for this issue to you. So first of all, when we look at acceptance, we have socio-political acceptance, which means, yes, I'm accepting this concept of CCU and, well, I'm supporting it, or yes, I'm giving a vote to a party which supports CCU technology rollout. But on the other hand, we have another acceptance level. This is local acceptance, and you all know it. It's on the level of, yeah, let's say local protest against the deployment, against the infrastructure rollout. And in the end, we also have market or product acceptance for CO2 derived products. And this ranges from mattresses to fuels to chemical components and so on and so on. And coming from this complexity of acceptance to a bit more background, it's a construct which is not directly measurable. It's based on an individual evaluation. So it's highly individual and highly subjective. And it depends on your experience, on your knowledge, on your capabilities, on your background, etc. And acceptance is highly volatile. So once you have achieved it, you cannot say, great, I take it for granted until the upcoming years. It changes depending on context factors. And these are technology-related factors. For example, competing technologies, other green alternatives, they affect the acceptance of CCU, or the political climate and environment. And I think the last few weeks have showed us that the issue of energy dependency has come to a complete new perception. And I think this already trickles down into private households who start to save energy who start to think about, let's say, cutoffs in their personal living comfort because the changing political situation has brought up this to the topic. Economic issues also play a role, how specific subsidies are given to a specific technology, and of all social factors, like, as I already said, factors like socio-demographic issues, if I'm experienced with the technology, and my attitudes, if I'm like a risk taker, or if I like innovations or not. And as another factor, how the media is covering this issue. And all these factors affect technology acceptance. And if I try to measure it, I have to look at this whole scope to find out, okay, which one is affecting this specific acceptance I'm measuring right now. So I really need a validated measurement framework. So, okay, I can ignore this message. So after this background, and I promise you this is enough of acceptance concept background, I want to look with you on what we already know about perceptions and acceptance of CCU in the public. And first of all, CCU is largely unknown to the public. What you can see here are different levels of knowledge regarding the CCU technology, CCU products, and some steps of the CCU process chain. And the darker the blue, the more knowledge people report to have about this issue. And what we find here is that only 20 to 25% of people have heard about the CCU technology or about CO2 derived products, and only about 10% report to be well informed. And this is not unusual for innovative technologies. This is a pattern we find for every sustainable technology innovation. People do not know much about it. But this has severe consequences, because people, when they are asked, how do you like this technology or this development, they do not really know much about it. They build their own mental models. They have their own assumptions about how this technology works, and they might be wrong from an expert's point of view. From an individual point of view, they make perfect sense because they explain how the world works. And we will see some inadequate, this is the term I prefer, mental models later on. So if I have an inadequate mental model, for example, I'm afraid that the CO2 might evade from my plastic product while I'm using it, then I might overestimate the risks which might evade from this product. And this is typical for opinions I'm asking for when I'm doing research or when I'm a market research company. People develop pseudo opinions, which are not meaningful, which are not stable. And this is something difficult to deliver my strategy. So nevertheless, if we give people well-designed scenarios and information, it is possible to measure acceptance. And what we know so far is that the acceptance level for CCU is quite positive. So this is another axis here. The higher the value, the more the acceptance. And what we found, the general idea of CCU is well liked in the public. And this picture changes a bit when we ask for local acceptance. So would you welcome some infrastructure rollout in your village, at home, right at your garden fence? And when we ask people about greenfield technology infrastructure deployment, then even 40% would say, oh, I would react with protest. So when we look at local acceptance, the picture is not that positive. But these are, acceptance judgments, which are, let's say there's also a percentage value, nice to report, but we do not really know what people base their judgment on. And this is why we look at these gray bars. We also have to dig deeper and have to find out what are the motives people base their judgment on. And these are risk and benefit perceptions. And this is the next part I want you to look at with me at the kind of benefit and risk perception. And we capture them while leading interviews with different stakeholders on CCU technology, with experts, and especially with lay people. And what you will see later on is like a big summary, because those risk and benefit perceptions differ with regard to the product we ask, with regard for example, the CO2 source we are asking for. But I think for a first impression, this gives you some ideas about what people think about. First of all, we look at the left-hand green side, the benefits people perceive. First of all, environmental benefits. This is really good. They have understood the idea of CO2 emission savings. And if you tell them that it's possible to substitute fossil resources, they also really like the idea, but they do not know it without telling them. They also like the idea of a more sustainable production. And this is something, it's difficult to read. They also expect some kind of product innovation, like improved product characteristics, because it's a somehow new kind of producing products. So if it's possible to load a product or to improve a product, do it, because people welcome this. On the other hand, there are also risk perceptions. And first of all, it's on, let's say, directed on sustainability concerns. People are not really convinced that CCU is a sustainable technology. They say CO2 is only stored for a short time. They say, we are not really sure if this is a pretext for dirty industries to continue burning fossil resources. What they also mention is that they are afraid that CCU investments might cannibalize green investments in other greener technologies. So these sustainability concerns should be taken seriously. And I heard a lot of messages today where I could tailor my messages regarding those issues. So other factors were like health risks based on this inadequate mental model that people are really afraid that this toxic CO2, they perceive CO2 as being toxic, that CO2 might do some harm to them. And they also perceive environmental risks, like maybe additional toxic effects due to new production routines. So as a next step, I want to show you how those benefit and risk perceptions, which can be measured and modeled to predict acceptance. Of course, when we want to look at acceptance of a technology concept or a local infrastructure rollout, there are a lot of more factors which are relevant. For example, participating the communities in the process, the fairness, etc. pp. But today I want to focus on this issue of perceptions. And what we found here in the explanation of general acceptance of this concept is that the environmental benefits are the main drivers of a positive gut feeling about it, leading to a positive acceptance, a general acceptance of this CCU technology concept. So as a message, you need to communicate the environmental benefits in a comprehensive way. Then this is the most, let's say, promising way to work on general acceptance. On the other hand, when we look at the prediction of local acceptance, here we can see, I will leave out this individual factor, that the sustainability risks and the environmental health risks are the main barriers to the local acceptance of CCU infrastructure, leading to feelings of dread and fear, effective risk perceptions. And yeah, you need to be fascinated by statistics as well, but I will translate this arrow. This arrow means that the higher my risk perceptions are, the lower my benefit perceptions will be. So this is called effect heuristic. My risk perception colors the perception of benefits. And this effect heuristic, which is a natural evolutionary response when I feel afraid of CCU, I will never, 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 ever accept it. And also my benefit perceptions will diminish. So let's come to an end. This was a short, brief dive into statistics and modeling to show you how those perceptions are important, and it can give us the background in understanding how the acceptance response evolves. So let's come to my summary. First of all, we find positive social political acceptance levels. So people generally like the idea of reusing CO2 to convert it into valuable products, which is a good starting point. But it's too early to say, yoo-hoo, hooray, let's go. There are some issues to consider. So first of all, the low awareness and knowledge about CCU in the public. And this might lead to the fact that people have irrational or technically wrong assumptions. Second, you should know and be aware of acceptance hotspots. I like to compare them with tipping points where a positive acceptance response can change into a negative rejective reaction, especially in those people who have not made up their opinion yet. And issues referring to those acceptance hotspots are, first of all, the question, where do we roll out our infrastructure? On a green field or on a brown field? What are the consequences on the local community level? Second, sustainability concerns. Again, people think when we explain the CCU concept, they say, okay, it's greenwashing, it's only temporary storage, and maybe there is a better solution, and CCU cannibalizes investments. So here, explanations are needed for the public. We need to address health and environmental concerns. And I think every expert here in this round was like, those stupid people, they do not know nothing about chemistry, but the majority of people does not know anything about chemistry, including me. So it's important to take these concerns seriously. And there are a lot of trust building measures you could impose in order to counteract those wrong assumptions. And finally, I have two messages. There is only one printed there. The first is we need a constant monitoring of societal responses to this technology during its development, during its rollout. And these insights need to inform technical development about accepted development pathways and about potential hotspots that might set no-goes for the public. And we need CCU communication and dialogue, which is timely, transparent, balanced in a way that it mentions benefits, but also risks, and trustful. And yes, I think these are my main messages. Thank you for your attention.